Hello everyone, this is Red Robot, and today we are going to be discussing just how good is the Scottish Resistance. Now, it's a tough ask to replace a weapon as diverse and powerful as the sticky bomb launcher, so let's find out if the Scottish Resistance is a viable contender for Demoman's secondary slot. Let's begin with stats, kind of break them down. The Scottish Resistance boasts a 25% faster firing speed, great for setting up groups of traps more quickly. Plus 50% ammo, so you'll never be running out of sticks, and plus 6 max stickies at one time, to a total of 14, which means you can set up more sticky traps and block off more choke points than ever before. And the final and most important benefit, in my opinion, is that you can detonate groups of stickies together while leaving the rest active, allowing you to selectively use some traps without removing the rest. Also, it's able to destroy enemy stickies. This can be game winning in some situations, but it's usually more useful on the more offensive sticky bomb launcher, such as the cookie bomb. For all of these upsides, there has to be a pretty severe downside, and there is. A 0.8 second longer bomb arm time. This is an incredibly harsh disadvantage, and rules out a lot of the air det tactics, as well as making quick traps to block off enemies impossible. This weapon is more defensive. You've got to plan ahead, you've got to control the battlefield in order to make this weapon work. Get overwhelmed, and it's all over. You'll see in this clip I'm using the Scottish Resistance with the Iron Bomber, and I reckon this is a really killer combo. And not only is the Iron Bomber one of my favourite pipe launchers to begin with, but the ability for the pipes to not roll as much as before is even more powerful, because you can abuse this with your traps. You can set up a trap at a choke point or a door and continuously lay your Iron Bomber pills, so it's like a second layer of defense over your already powerful traps. It's super useful, plus it's really good just as a self-defense weapon as you get overwhelmed. The lock and load would be another good option for the same reason. If you want to rely a little less on your traps and be a little bit less vulnerable, the lock and load's extra speed allows you to take care of any stragglers that your traps might miss. I found this stage of Thunder Mountain was excellent for using the Scottish Resistance. Not only are the spawns really easy to trap up, but there's always kind of a way to keep bombs on the cart while keeping in a safe position. And you'll see this position up here is super powerful. You can trap up not only the cart down on the ramp to make it more difficult for the attackers, but you can also trap up the angles they can come to flank you with at the same time, making it really difficult. I mean, outside of a sniper or someone rocket jumping up, taking a big risk to take you out, it's going to be really hard, and your usual counters, such as scouts and pyros, things that can just walk at you, will have a huge trouble getting at you in this situation. You can see I've also switched off the Iron Bomber to try something a little bit different. I want to focus way more on the Scottish Resistance than ever before, make myself rely on it, so I'm using it with the booties and the Eyelander. I would not recommend this, but it's a really fun way to sort of push the Scottish Resistance to the max without relying on your Iron Bomber or your lock and load too much. You can really see what this weapon can do on its own. You see this pyro seeing one trap but not realizing there might be another. The Scottish Resistance is really fun for juggling enemies around from one sticky to the next. It feels so great to be able to have that much control over the map. There are many sources of damage just hidden around wherever you choose. I think everyone can agree with me that you don't see a lot of Scottish Resistance in pubs, and I think there's a really good reason for that. The Scottish Resistance is a really powerful weapon. It lets you control the map more than any stick launcher could ever let you, but your teammates don't really make the most of it. Think about it. If you had a bunch of Scottish Resistance stickies all over the map, your teammates should really be making use of them. They should be standing behind them, standing on them, luring enemies into them. Your teammates rather, should be just as aware of your stickies as your enemies, because they're just as useful to them. The most kind of teamwork I got out of them was just my teammates, like snipers and spies, killing enemies that were distracted by them, and it's sort of a passive form of teamwork. I mean, it'd be so much more effective if they were actively abusing my stickies, and we could together get some really awesome kills, and thin out the attackers to make it easier to defend. That said, if your teammates at least stop your enemies from pushing up to kill you, you can really make some things happen with this weapon. I mean, if you aren't engaging in direct combat and just setting traps, it's like a direct upgrade pretty much for the sticky bomb launcher, but the situations in pubs where you can rely on your teammates to protect you are pretty rare, so this weapon barely ever gets to shine as much as it should. One important thing to note, actually, that I think a lot of people forget about is the outline of the stickies through walls. Now, if you use, think it's DX9 or above, and you use the cart enable glow feature or something like that, you'll be able to see your stickies through walls, and that's really useful. You can see if they get knocked away or if they get moved by enemies, and you know when to detonate them. If you're playing on DX8 and you can't have access to that feature, you're putting yourself at a really big disadvantage, which I think is another reason why a lot of players who struggle for FPS won't enjoy using this weapon as much, because they can't abuse this really useful feature of it. All up, I think the Scottish Resistance has some really awesome upsides, and it's a super fun weapon to use if you want to turn TF2 in sort of a weird tower defense game with a bunch of traps and really controlling the enemy and just abusing choke points as much as possible. However, I don't think it really stacks up to the versatility and the power of the sticky bomb launcher, and you know what, I think that's actually a good thing. I don't want to live in a world where the Scottish Resistance is just as good as the sticky bomb launcher, because this weapon has the ability to shut down entire maps. I think it's the kind of weapon that, you know, it's good that it's a side grade. It's good that it's not as good as the sticky bomb launcher. Sure, there might be some situations where it can do pretty well, maybe even better, but I don't ever want to be in a world where I'm playing against Scottish Resistance stickies all the time, because they will be everywhere and there'll be no getting away from them. And in conclusion, is the Scottish Resistance good? Nope, it's not. It's a side grade, a little bit worse than stock. Worse than most situations, basically. There might be once in 1,000 years when you can do great things with it, but let's keep it that way. I don't want to see it getting buffed. I'm happy with it right as it is. That's all I got for you right now. I'll catch you guys next time.